Hello, good morning. My pleasure to be here in this session from the my UEG community, and we are going to talk about career and specifically on diversity in the quality in grants. So I hope I am waiting for you to join. There is some noise, background noise. Oh, yeah, that's okay. So I will wait a little bit for you to join, and I please ask you to be very active in the chat and in the questions, because this is an important occasion where we can discuss between all of us and think on what we can improve. And we are very lucky because we have with us two persons that are expert in this field of grants and will help us giving us their point of view as Nektarios, Tavernarakis and Imam Maude. So it's a great honor to be here, and I hope that please you join and ask your questions. On this topic, I will go through the slides. I don't know if I can go through the slides. Is it possible? Well, our idea is that we all know that there is some bias in everything in life. I mean, we have to acknowledge that we are always biased, and that probably when we evaluate or a grant is evaluated, the person that will evaluate that grant will have their own ideas and perceptions, and probably some issues like gender or diversity might impact on their final result. So what we want to address here is if we can improve that and if there is really a need to do it. The next slide, please. There is a part that we need to bear in mind is that probably one of the things is that it might happen that the pipeline, there are less women that apply to grants. And this is a part that is difficult to adjust in a global way and from European way, that probably needs to be adjusted more locally, and there is a lot of work to do on that. But maybe the other part is that those ones that get there, that arrive and really ask for grants, they should have the same possibilities as their male counterparts. So probably here is where we are going to discuss and try to improve it, or have your opinion and see if there is something really that we need to address. So first I will introduce Nektarios Tavernarakis, and he will explain you a little bit on what he does and what he is. Nectario?
Thank you, Maria. It's a pleasure for me to be here representing the European Research Council. So I will first say a few words about me, introduce myself. My name is Nektarios Tavernarakis. I'm a professor at the Medical School of the University of Crete here in Greece. I'm also serving as the Vice-President of ERC for Life Sciences since the beginning of the year. I will just share with you some information about the European Research Council and put in context what you've already seen in the previous slide about how ERC deals with equality issues, gender balance, for example, and other equality-related issues. So what is the ERC? In the next slide, as you can see, the ERC, shown now in the next slide, is a funding agency that is actually supporting excellence in frontier research. As you can see in the next slide, the ERC supports excellence through bottom-up, individual-based pan-European competition. And this is just an indicative budget for the new framework program, the Horizon Europe framework program. The ERC is going to handle 16 billion euro for the duration of the program. And here the ERC is really funding research based on the sole criterion of excellence. This is what the ERC is designed to do. And as you can see in the next slide, the ERC is part of Horizon Europe. It actually belongs to the first pillar, which is about excellent science. They are together with the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, the infrastructure programs, which are also in pillar 1. Now, as you can see in the next slide, the ERC has 3 major grant schemes targeting mostly young researchers, young investigators. So there is the starting grant initiative, the consolidator grants, and the advanced grants for more established researchers. In addition, there is the proof of concept grants for developing ideas towards the market or towards commercialization, and the synergy grants that support teams of scientists working towards an independent goal. Now, what does the ERC offer? As you can see in the next slide, the ERC is actually offering freedom and intellectual independence to ERC grantees. So they can work in a research topic of their choosing. They can gain true financial autonomy for up to 5 years. ERC grants can last for about 5 years. And also negotiate their own terms with the EU with regard to the host institution and other aspects of handling their grants. And in the next slide, as you can see, the ERC is funding all domains of science, including life sciences, and particularly research that has to do, for example, with prevention, diagnosis, and treatment of human diseases. As you can see, one panel is dedicated to this area, but also physical sciences and engineering, as well as social sciences and humanities. And over the years, what has become increasingly clear, as you can see in the next slide, is that when focusing on excellence, this is the best strategy to actually support research. So ERC is looking for groundbreaking projects that have potential important impact through all domains of science, as well as researchers who are creative and committed to perform their research. And I will just finish by just giving you some numbers about the ERC. In the next slide, as you can see, after more than 14 years of operation, ERC is considered widely a success story and actually the golden standard for funding research internationally. More than 10,000 projects have been supported, as you can see. More than 13 billion euro have been dispensed to investigators coming from all over the world, actually, here in Europe, to enrich the scientific environment in Europe. And in the next slide, just as an indication, several grantees of the ERC have gone on to receive prestigious international prizes, such as, for example, the Nobel Prize or the Fields Medal in mathematics. So the ERC is all about funding excellent research with the sole criterion of scientific excellence and the track record of the applicant. And of course, it implements measures that have to do with gender equality, gender balance, as you've seen already. And I'm here to discuss with you the policies and the strategies that the ERC is using to really ensure that there is a fair competition and grants are evaluated on the sole criterion of excellence without really discriminating against any type of imbalance, for example, be it gender or geographical or otherwise. So I'm happy to be here and I'm ready to answer any questions. Thank you, Maria. Back to you.
So thank you very much, Nectarios. So as you can see, we have here a very prestigious person, which is Nectarios, and that is in front of this very big, important research part of Europe. But I please invite you to really ask what you really feel, because even if we say politically that we know that there are plenty of politics to try to avoid this balance, we want really to know what you feel, what is your experience, and if we really need to address that, because there is evidence that there is clearly a disbalance in terms of gender while we look at the principal investigators in grants. So please be honest and ask and use that we have the opportunity of having somebody like Nektarios or Imam that is going to introduce himself right now here with us. So Imam, please, can you introduce yourself?
Thank you very much, Maria. It's a pleasure to be joining this session with Nectarius and yourself. And my name is Imam Wakid. I'm a clinician. I'm a professor of medicine. I am a reviewer for the European Union's proposals for grant funding. I review proposals in clinical applications on clinical medicine in the fields of gastroenterology, liver diseases, and cancer. I've been a reviewer for the past 5 rounds of calls for Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe. And I'm going to share with the audience and with you some my personal views of equality and gender diversity in proposals and how research grants are evaluated or research proposals are evaluated.
Thank you, Imam. Thank you. So we will start with a question to the audience. So please answer to the questionnaire that we will ask you right now to start with the debate. So if you can just go through the voting, please, with the slide with the voting. In the slide, we will ask you, in your opinion, what could be most effective in promoting equality in grants? First option, anonymized application process. That could be one option. The other one, more diversity in reviewers. Positive discrimination. Do you think we need positive discrimination? Career development programs. Do you think that we need people to be more prepared to get there? And do you think that we need to increase networking opportunities? I think you can answer several of them. You don't have to choose one, but you need to say the ones that you will preferably choose for you to for promoting equality. So please, I will give you a few seconds to answer that. And in the meantime, I will present myself because I just forgot that I didn't present myself. I am Maria Pellisé. I am a gastroenterologist that is mostly dedicated to endoscopy and specifically to screening, colorectal cancer screening and high-risk conditions for colorectal cancer. I am now the chair of the Equality and Diversity and Equality working group at the UEG. That is a brand new working group, so we are just starting. And I have an academic career as well. I have never had a big grant like an European grant, but yes, I have national competitive grants. So this is my background. So is there any answer? Can we please see the charts if the answers are there, please? Let's see what the audience has mostly voted. Well, so it's curious that there are the first option, the anonymized application process, hasn't had any vote, but the more diversity in reviewers has had several votes, which is very interesting. Also, some people are pro the positive discrimination, and some people also think that the career development programs. I think it's very interesting. What is your point of view, Imam? Can you comment on that? What would
the diversity in reviewers is actually applied in evaluating applications for ERC and European Union funding. Usually, each proposal is reviewed by 5 reviewers. Gender diversity is insisted upon in the mix-up of the reviewers, and geographic diversity. Not all Europeans are from, or not all reviewers are from Europe when reviewing EU applied proposals, and the gender mix is balanced among the reviewers for each proposal, and the group of reviewers for the group of proposals, because 5 reviewers review each proposal, and the whole group of reviewers actually make a final decision on each proposal. So,
and is it easy to find reviewers that are female, for example, or is it more difficult to find them?
no, it's very easy. Actually, we're a very, every round we find a very impressive mix of male and female reviewers. They're experts in their fields, and they're among the top experts in the world that the EU finds.
And why don't we have an anonymized application process?
This is very important. This is a very important issue, and this needs a lot of discussion because, again, the EU criteria of grading applications includes gender diversity in the application. And sometimes excellent proposals that are not, the gender diversity is not clear or not highlighted, are not funded because of the lack of gender diversity. So I personally think that all proposals should be evaluated on their excellence part, anonymized, without bias about the applicants' CVs, the applicants' university, their status in the literature, because some applicants are very impressive in their status. Some are among the top world researchers. So human nature would make the reviewers a little biased towards these researchers or these applicants. So if the proposals or the applications are anonymized and they're evaluated on excellence and they're graded according to excellence, and then the top proposals are de-anonymized, and then we see the gender equality and the gender mix, this would be fairer for the applicants.
So yeah, exactly. Because as a female, I always feel very weird about positive discrimination, because I would never like that someone give me something just because I am a female. This I don't think is fair to what I have been achieving. But on the other side, I agree that it's still a time where it's mostly the academic world is mostly a men's world, because of very often there is an age where females we have to face the family issue, plus the super specialization or whatever tasks you have to do in the hospital, plus the academic work. So in many countries, it's not easy to handle all of it. So you have to decide. And it is true that probably when you get to the age of 40, you don't have the same curriculum or the same network as your colleague male, because you have been doing a part-time job or doing the best of you. So I understand that in that sense, we might need some positive discrimination, but I really feel very bad about it. So I will be very curious to know our community, what they think about it, and to see their opinion in the chat, and to see if they really feel that it is nice that somebody tells you that you have been given a grant just because you are a woman, or if they feel that this is something that we need to go through for a time. What is your opinion? I would be really curious to know the opinion of the community. Can you please post your thoughts in the chat? Because it will be nice to we have here Dr. Tavernarakis, who is an important person in the ERC, so it will be nice to have your opinion. It's your moment.
Let me add something to what you just said. When a lady, top world-class researcher, is on equal ground with her male counterpart, she must have worked twice as hard.
Yeah, but this is not fair.
That should be taken into account, okay. That women work twice as hard as males to get to where the males are. So we should all look up to female researchers who are in the top of their fields.
Okay, that's the reason why we do positive discrimination.
That's maybe a reason, but let me put it in another question maybe for you, for Tavernarakis, or for the audience. Sometimes we get research applications for breast cancer in ladies. Would a gender diversity be necessary in such a project?
No.
Or on uterine or ovarian cancer? Would an all-female research team, would this be against gender equality or gender diversity? And again, if we have a proposal on, let's say, prostate cancer in males, does this need gender diversity, or could it be an all-male proposal?
I don't. For me, it's difficult to understand. I mean, everybody can talk about breast or prostate. I don't think that only men can talk about prostate and women about breast. This is.
No,
I mean, but I am just going to the polemic part. But I think that diversity is diversity. That means that you have to have a little bit of everything, because it's different ways of asking questions and probably solving problems, which is what you, after all, need. It's a way to enrich the way you ask questions and you solve problems. And it doesn't depend on the topic. It just, no, that would be my idea. What do you think, Nectarios?
Yes, I totally agree. I think that what we need to actually ensure is that there are checks and balances, that every application is treated fairly and equally, and there are no unconscious bias creeping in or other types of bias that could influence the outcome. We need to have a faithful evaluation system that consistently evaluates based on merit, not based on any other type of characteristic, be it gender, be it race, be it anything. So I can explain how the ERC does this. So the first parameter is, of course, the evaluation panels. And there the ERC is taking great care to ensure that there is a balanced composition of the panel. So we have full representation, gender equality, as well as geographical distribution of the referees coming from all over Europe or from other areas of the world. And this ensures that the evaluation, at least, is going to be as unbiased as possible as it can be. In addition, what the ERC is also doing is organizing workshops where experts can explain about unconscious bias, gender balance issues to the reviewers and the evaluation panels, so that the reviewers are trained to avoid any kind of gender based bias in their evaluation. And we are closely monitoring this, so that any case where there might be some gender balance detected, the ERC is trying to rectify by issuing new directives, new rules, explanations and clarifications to both the applicants and the reviewers, so that everybody is clear on how the evaluation of the project should be done. Now, one thing about positive discrimination, the ERC is actually, as you may know, also interviewing applicants. So we have interviews as well for all projects that make it to the second stage of evaluation. So there, of course, this cannot be an anonymized process, because the applicants themselves are there and are presenting their project to the panel. But what we are also trying to ensure is that any type of contingency that might be specific to gender, for example, leave of absence because of childcare or other, for example, even in now COVID-19 consequences that might influence female applicants more than male applicants. These are all taken into consideration. And there are even specific fields in the application where the applicant can explain about career breaks about any other types of career interruption that might influence the evaluation of the project.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nectarius. Anyway, I think that the way you are explaining things, ERC is probably very well organized in these terms and in this structure, but once one gets to apply for a grant, for a European grant, you're already quite a well-established scientific or researcher. But you have to start, and you start probably with small grants and small national grants. So I would like I am curious about the audience, what is their feeling, and if they ever feel, the next question is on if they ever felt to have a bias review. Can you please raise the question to the audience? So the question is, did you ever feel that you received a bias review of your proposal? I don't know if the technical, can you please just show the slide with the question, the next question? Would that be feasible? Please. Well, I don't know.
I think they can just answer.
Yeah, we can just
yes or no if they
yeah.
can.
Yeah, they just can tell us if they have ever felt to have a bias in the review. Me as a female, I don't think, I have never felt that here you have the different options. Yes, no, I am not sure. I never thought about that. Please, if you can answer it. In the meantime, I have never felt when I am applying to a grant. And for me, the biggest problem is probably two. One is the moment that you arrive to apply for a grant, that you consider that you can apply as an principal investigator. And I do think that getting to that point is harder for us. To have like the trust in the team in your hospital or in your institution, to have the same opportunities when you are beginning. About mentorship and sponsorship, I think that here is the problem. And then there is a problem that has been very well shown in basic science on the scissors thing, no? That before the PhD, during the PhD, there is a lot of females. But after the PhD, many of the females stop doing post PhD science, probably because of the responsibility, then because of self-confidence. We probably don't feel that we are able to do it, and probably for family matters. So I think that the point of discussion is more here than once you are applying for the grant as principal investigator. And the other point is the way we write the grants. We have to learn to do it in a men's fashion, probably. That's my point of view. I don't know yours. Here are the answers. So most of them are not sure or didn't thought of it. And only 25% considered that, yes, they felt bias. So it's nice to see that most of them didn't felt that there was a clear bias. And it would be nice to understand why the other ones felt it. Probably it was related. Was it related with the way they write their grants, or was it more related with the fact that you are evaluated differently, your CV, because you are a female? What do you think? I think that the way of writing grants may also, I mean, we probably don't put so much emphasis on our own achievements sometimes. So maybe, or we are not so, we let people see much more our doubts when we write. We are not so straightforward. So maybe this may influence the way the grant is evaluated. Do you think that there can be an influence on that?
Okay, can I just answer a couple of your questions? Bias in evaluating a proposal is not just for gender. There are biases for other things. One of the points that the EU trainers or directives tell us before we evaluate proposals is that we should ignore grammar and language errors and mistakes. and this should not be taken into consideration. However, if you find a proposal that on the principle is very good, but it is very badly written, even, automatically you're biased against it, and you score it lower than a similar proposal that is very well written. So taking care of your writing and evaluating your writing and your grammar and your language is very, very important, because even subconsciously it will affect the reviewers and the reviewers' opinion, although it should not, but this is human nature and it does.
Nectarios, do you want to add something?
Yes, I think that it needs to be clear from the very beginning to the people who are evaluating proposals how they can avoid really introducing bias in the evaluation. This is not always easy or even possible, but as funders, I think there is a responsibility there to have ways to educate people who are reviewing, or people who are in position to actually make decisions about whether or not a proposal should be funded, how to avoid any type of bias, including, of course, gender bias or other bias that might have to do with, for example, the geographical distribution of the applicants. So it is very important to continuously monitor this process and identify any potential loopholes or pitfalls that might be there, and then eliminate them through a process of training the people who are reviewing proposals. And at the same time, also give the opportunity to applicants to explain any particular, any special conditions that they are facing in their personal life, in their jobs, in their work environment, that might have influenced their performance, so that this is taken into consideration by the evaluators. And that way we can approach a fair evaluation. It's not always possible, and an evaluation always introduces some elements of subjective, let's say, opinion or bias, but we should always try to minimize this to the best possible extent, realistically speaking.
Thank you. And I have one question that was raised the other day when we were having a meeting on our Equity and Diversity Working Group, that was on age, because to promote young researchers, there is this cutoff age, but it happens that some people, for many reasons, and it can happen to a female, for example, that has to stop their career for not only for the birth of their children, but for raising them, that they just arrive to that point where they want to start and they are more than 40 years old. And it looks like everything is closed when you are more than 40 and you don't have already a CV. So do you think that we should also address this?
Yes, you already said previously that at some point you need to have some way of becoming established, or generating some data in order to initiate a process where you can become competitive. Now, female applicants may be facing more difficulties towards that goal, and that is why there should be allowances, for example, for parental leave or for any other career interruption that might influence somebody's trajectory. So that this should be taken into consideration. If, for example, you are reaching an age of 40 or more and you don't have major publications or other achievements that would make you competitive because you had to take parental leave, or there were other interruptions that were imposed by other circumstances in one's life, this should also be part of the evaluation and should be taken into consideration when evaluating an applicant. So, of course, the criterion of scientific excellence is there, but at the same time, we should have a way of ensuring a fair evaluation, taking every parameter into consideration.
That's nice. So it's nice to have you on board. I hope that all the world is like you. That will make things easier. So I would like to ask another question to the audience. The next question, please, if you can just show it in the screen. The next question is, what is your gut feeling? Do we need to change the way we evaluate impactful research and eventually adapt review criteria for grant proposals? Do you really think we need it? No, I don't think so. I am skeptical, probably, but how? Yes, definitively. With all we have been saying, do you still think that we need to go further, or do you think that it's enough? Or do you think that this is not the most important point to make more female principal investigators in the grants in Europe or nationally? And let's see what was the results, if you can show them. So, so nobody thinks I don't think so, which is it's already interesting, and we probably need to change them, but we need to try to think how. I really appreciate from what you are commenting from the ERC that you have been addressing that very properly in the ERC. So probably here is not the major problem. And I think that we probably need to address that more in a national level. And probably there is someone who still says that he doesn't think so or she doesn't think so. So probably there is a lot more to do in a more smaller level. That's my feeling. I don't know what is the feeling of the rest of the participants, but I think that the problem is probably in the beginning, not so much once you apply to a European grant. What do you think about it? Because you probably have the experience in your own countries, so you probably can also tell me if you think that it's easier for PhD or young post PhD fellows to ask for grants. What do you think?
I personally think that evaluating grants everywhere, whether it's local or international or for the EU or for wherever, on the basis of excellence and scientific merit initially is very, very important. So anonymous applications at the beginning are important, and grants should be evaluated without considering other criteria other than excellence. Once the excellence is decided, and the top grants can be evaluated on other criteria, whether they're gender diversity, geographic diversity, career track of the applicants, and so on. This will give postdocs and young investigators a better chance in evaluating their grant proposals. And in major grants and research, end of career grants or major grants, this will take away the bias of evaluating based on the reputation of the applicants or the researchers or their track records or their publication history and so on.
Thank you. And I have a curiosity, Nectarios. What is the percentage of grants that are led by a female when you look at European grants?
I can give you actually the numbers. I had them in the presentation, but I can give you percentage and numbers of grants that went and the distribution between male and female. Let me just.
But of applicants, not the ones that were given. I am just asking the ones that apply.
Yes, exactly. So let me find them. So we have a distribution of about 40% for female applicants
In medicine or in all the fields?
In life sciences.
In life sciences.
In general, yes.
Wow.
It differs somewhat from call to call and from domain to domain. So it's not always there. Sometimes it's more. Sometimes it's less. But I'm talking about the recent calls, just the last couple of years. We've had about 40% female applicants. So. And the success rate, I would say, also reflects that. So it's the overall success rate in life sciences is also about 38 to 40%.
But that it's a very nice number. I didn't expect it because at least this is not what happens in Spain. I would say that's not the feeling I have in gastroenterology in my field. We are most of the physicians. We are like 60% of the staff member of the physicians, are even higher numbers in females, but not when you look at academic careers and professors and all those things. It is still quite unbalanced. So it's interesting to see that maybe in other parts of Europe this is not happening as such. And there is a question in the chat on what about geographical diversity? Is there a bias recorded in geographical diversity towards the applicants and also the ones that are successful grants? What is the...
So for the ERC, this is actually an issue that we are closely monitoring, especially because it has to do with the so-called widening countries, which are countries that are in the second wave of the EU expansion, let's say, and we have a much lower success rate in these countries compared to the main European Central Europe countries like Germany, France, for example, Austria, the Netherlands, etc. So indeed, this is something that we are seeing. The success rate, for example, in countries like Poland, Slovenia, other countries, including Greece, Portugal, is not compared really to the success rate of Central European countries. So this reflects to some extent limited participation. So we get less applications from these countries, and this is something that we are actively looking to improve. So the ERC has created specific mentoring programs to really engage the scientific community in these countries and encourage scientists to apply. But this is also a problem for the national research funding and support, because in order for a particular country to become competitive at the European level, the national policies should also support research. So the scientific community in the country should be supported nationally so that there can be a development towards increasing competitiveness, and that way the country can be competitive at the international or European level. So it's not entirely up to the ERC or any other central funding agency to do that. The countries themselves, the national policies also need to be there. But at the same time, we are also trying to help this process through mentoring schemes and through mobility between widening countries and Central European science powers, let's say, in order to allow for this exchange that would encourage scientists in those countries to apply.
So Nectarios, that means that if someone that is listening to us that is from one of those countries, like for example myself, because we really feel very often that a European grant is far beyond our reach. First of all, because they are quite difficult to, you need a lot of time to apply for them and to understand how they work. So sometimes you don't have so much time to do it. And then because you feel that they are very difficult or just, I don't know, so how should you, for all you are explaining today, I really feel more encouraged to apply. But what else? What other advice can you give us? Like, for example, how can we look for these mentoring programs if our institution is not helping us? Because this is the problem. The nation, the country, and the institution is probably not giving us as much help as in other countries, but this is our reality. So how can we get to these mentoring programs? And what other advice, you, Imam, as a reviewer, and you, Nectarios, as the Vice-President of the ERC, would you give us to encourage us to ask for grants and to really get there?
So one thing is that in every country there is a national contact point for every European program, including the ERC. So in Spain, for example, there is a national contact point for ERC. There is a national contact point for Marie Curie, for EIC, etc. So these national contact points are created exactly for that purpose, to disseminate information about the grants, about how to best prepare an application so that it can be successful. You can get information from those national contact points, and you can find your national contact point very easily on the website of the ERC. There you can actually see the list of all national contact points in all European countries with their contact information, email, phone numbers, etc. So you can contact the people there, and they will provide all kinds of information and help and feedback on the preparation of the proposal. In addition, the mentoring scheme allows for applicants, prospective applicants, to visit the laboratories or the clinics of successful grantees from other countries. And this is covered. I mean, the cost of such visits is covered. Again, the national contact point has information about how to do this, how to take advantage of this instrument. And so people who want to really learn how to write a successful application can discuss with people who have been successful, who actually have been through the process and were successful in obtaining grants, so that they can learn firsthand how to prepare a successful application. And this is something that can be done easily and is actually covered through the mentoring schemes from countries all over Europe. And I think it's something that people should learn about and should take advantage of in order to maximize their chances of being successful.
And Imam, do you have any advice while writing an application? That things that you may have been facing, of things, as you were saying, like, oh, this was very bad written. It's a pity because the grant was good, but other things like details that maybe someone could change or help to avoid this unconscious bias and to...
What we look for in grants, most of the grants that we review in the health sector are multinational grants, and the applications have to include more than one country in Europe, and the more countries, the better. So the number of countries involved in the proposal is one of the evaluation criteria. And more importantly, how work is distributed among the partners. Work has to be distributed in fair quality, so that it is not the main investigator or the principal investigator who does most of the work, and the other partners in the consortium are just there for window dressing or doing minor or trivial work. So the fair distribution among the countries and among the participants is something that the applicants should take into consideration. And one other issue about geographic distribution or the geographic diversity is when the EU calls for grant about North-South collaboration or collaboration with developing countries or low and middle-income countries. The main concept behind this collaboration is technology transfer and capacity building in the developing countries. So the partners in the developing countries should be involved in the actual work, and work distribution should be fair between the North and South. And technology transfer and capacity building should be obvious in the proposal, not just include the partners in the other country, just to provide samples and as window dressing for the proposal. So this is something that should be taken into consideration when writing a proposal and applying, because the reviewers look at these parameters in the review process and in grading the application.
So this actually may help to diversity and equity, no? It's just the philosophy of the grants, no, at the end. So
no, I mean, this is if the philosophy of the grant is North-South cooperation, but even in European-only grants, the distribution of the work between the countries and the partners is something that is taken into consideration. I mean, if, let's say, one of the most developed countries in Europe is partnering with a few of the newer European Eastern countries in Europe, and most of the work is done in the Western European country, this is not taken very pleasantly with the reviewers. There has to be fair distribution and a fair amount of work and technology transfer to the all the partners.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, and when you have to go to the hearing situation, do you think that there could be any unconscious bias? Is there any politics to avoid it, or is there a way, the way you sell your pitch, the way you present your, because this is probably something that it should be maybe driven by the gender as well, the way you present your pitch, your data or your application. Do you think there is something there that we can address, or that people should like know? Or do you take, I suppose that the reviewers are also females, it's balanced even in the hearings, I suppose?
Yes.
So I suppose that this is a way to address it?
Yes, it is very important that the applicants are actually facing a balanced panel. Yeah. So all male panels, for example, are not an option here. At least in the ERC, what we are trying is that we have at least 50-50 composition in terms of gender for the panels, and also ensure that the panel members are coming from different countries throughout Europe, and as well as from non-European countries. So we don't want to have, for example, panel members coming, more than 2 coming from the same country, or having more than 2 coming from the same institution. Such as, for example, in large institutions, CNRS in France, or other large institutions. And we are also trying to ensure that there is no conflict of interest between panel members and applicants. So, for example, there is no affiliation, either formal or implied affiliation, between panel members and applicants that could justify either a favoritism towards the applicant, or maybe hostility towards the applicant. For example, if we detect that a panel member is a competitor of one applicant, this is avoided. The panel member is excused. Also, if there are any formal relationships like previous collaborations, co-authorships, so everything is taken into consideration to the best possible extent to avoid potential conflict of interest in the panel interviews and in the evaluation of proposals. And the composition of the panel, we are taking a special effort to have a balanced composition, both in terms of gender, but also in terms of geographical distribution of the panel members.
Well, thank you, Nectarios. Well, I think we are about to finish, and I have to say that I have been very happy to hear all your comments, because it really has made clear to me that ERC is doing a big effort to avoid any inequity or any bias, which is something that is really promising. I mean, it's like it's good, and I just hope that that this talk that we have had here has helped other people to see that we really can feel confident that if we apply for a European grant, we won't be biased because of our gender, and that we have the same opportunities, or even maybe positive discrimination that will help us to succeed. So, and that all the measures that have been taken off by the ERC are measures that can also be copied at a national level, and we can try to do the same and address the same to avoid biases. So thank you very much. I don't know if you have anything to say. Do you want to say anything to close, Nectarios, Imam?
Just to thank you and thank Nectarius for your participation, and thank the UEG for the opportunity for being part of this panel. And I hope that all the attendees will be successful applicants and get their grants.
I would also like to thank you. It has been a pleasure to participate together with such distinguished panelists today here, Maria and Imam. I would just send this last message that please don't hesitate to apply. Don't be discouraged. It's always, I think, useful to try, even if the outcome is not the best possible. Still, it's a valuable experience, and it actually helps through this trial and error, let's say, to eventually become successful. So dare to apply, don't become intimidated, and good luck with your applications.
So thank you very much, and thank you to the participants. Let's continue with the Congress and learning a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you.